By 2027, all 7 members of BTS will have completed their mandatory military service. Every single one of them. And the moment that happens, the global entertainment industry isn't just going to notice, it's going to move. Here's some context. BTS has sold out stadiums across 4 continents, generated over $5 billion in economic impact for South Korea in a single year, according to the Hyundai Research Institute, and built one of the most devoted fan ecosystems, ARMY, the world has ever seen. These aren't casual listeners. They're buyers, streamers, voters, and brand ambassadors by choice. So, when 7 of the most recognizable faces on the planet re-enter the global spotlight at the same time, the biggest companies in America won't be watching from the sidelines. They'll be writing checks. The question isn't whether major U.S. corporations will compete for BTS in 2027. The question is, which ones, and how far are they willing to go? From sneakers to satellites, from streaming platforms to social media empires, 7 American giants have both the motive and the money, and one of them is reportedly willing to spend billions. Let's start from the bottom. Number 7. Nike. Let's talk about the most powerful sports brand on Earth, and why when it comes to BTS, the math practically does itself. Nike was founded in 1964 by Phil Knight and Bill Bowerman out of a handshake and a waffle iron, which started as a small Oregon-based shoe distributor called Blue Ribbon Sports, became over 6 decades a $50 billion a year global empire. Today, Nike operates in more than 190 countries, holds roughly 27% of the global athletic footwear market, and has built its brand on one foundational belief: that sport, culture, and identity are inseparable. That belief is exactly what makes BTS such a logical and potentially explosive fit. Here's what Nike has always understood better than almost anyone else in business. The most effective marketing doesn't sell products, it sells identity. When Nike partnered with Michael Jordan in 1984, Jordan wasn't yet the greatest basketball player of all time. He was a 21-year-old rookie. Nike saw something in him that went beyond basketball. They saw a cultural force. That bet produced Air Jordan, a line that by 2023 generated over $5 billion in annual revenue on its own. The parallel to BTS isn't accidental, it's instructive. BTS represents something that Nike has spent decades trying to manufacture artificially through celebrity endorsements: authentic cultural gravity. BTS didn't become globally famous because of a marketing campaign. They built their audience methodically through music that addressed real emotional experiences: loneliness, self-doubt, ambition, delivered through a work ethic that their own documentary footage made undeniable. They practiced for years in conditions that were far from glamorous before their first hit. ARMY didn't grow to over 40 million Twitter followers and counting because of a PR firm. It grew because the connection between the group and their fans is genuinely reciprocal. That kind of loyalty is what Nike pays billions to approximate. Now add sneaker culture into this equation, and the picture sharpens considerably. The global sneaker resale market is valued at over $6 billion, according to data from Statista and Grand View Research. Sneakers are no longer just athletic equipment, they're collectibles, status symbols, and cultural artifacts. Collaborations between brands and cultural figures have become the primary engine of that market's growth. When Travis Scott collaborated with Nike's Jordan brand, the resulting shoes sold out within seconds and resold on secondary markets for 3 to 5 times their retail price. When Virgil Abloh partnered with Nike on the 10 collection, the same thing happened. The pattern is consistent. The right cultural figure plus Nike equals demand that outstrips supply by design. BTS sits at the intersection of multiple demographics that Nike actively targets. Their fanbase skews young, predominantly Gen Z and younger millennials, which maps precisely onto Nike's most strategically important consumer segment. A 2021 Morning Consult report ranked BTS as one of the most influential figures among U.S. teenagers, ahead of multiple established American celebrities. And critically, BTS's appeal is genuinely multicultural. Their audience spans South Korea, the United States, Southeast Asia, Latin America, the Middle East, and Europe. For a brand that sells in 190 countries and is always looking for marketing vehicles that travel across borders without losing power, BTS is functionally rare. What would a Nike-BTS collaboration actually look like? That's where things get genuinely interesting, because the scope of what Nike can offer goes far beyond a single advertisement. Nike has a long history of releasing limited edition collections tied to cultural moments. A BTS Nike Air Force One or a dedicated lifestyle sneaker line would almost certainly replicate the sellout dynamics seen with other high-profile collaborations. Nike's SNRS app, which handles limited releases, reported over 30 million users as of recent years, and a BTS drop on that platform would generate traffic unlike almost anything the app has seen before. ARMY has a documented history of coordinated purchasing activity. When BTS's album Map of the Soul 7 dropped in 2020, it sold over 4 million copies in its first month. That same organizational energy applied to a sneaker release would be a retail event. But the collaboration doesn't have to stop at footwear. Nike has an entire apparel division, Nike Sportswear, Jordan Brand, and its performance lines, which has increasingly leaned into streetwear and fashion-adjacent aesthetics. BTS members have individually demonstrated significant fashion credibility. RM has been a front-row presence at major fashion weeks, and multiple members have worked with luxury houses. A Nike apparel capsule designed in creative partnership with BTS wouldn't just appeal to ARMY, it would attract fashion media coverage, which Nike values enormously because it elevates the brand above purely athletic utility. There's also the advertising dimension. Nike's most iconic campaigns, Just Do It, the Colin Kaepernick ad, and the You Can't Stop Us split-screen film share one quality: they are unapologetically bold. They take cultural positions. BTS's message around mental health, self-acceptance, and perseverance, themes embedded in their music through albums like Love Yourself, aligns with the values-forward direction Nike has been deliberately moving in for years. A campaign built around that thematic overlap wouldn't feel like product placement, it would feel like a genuine statement. And that's exactly the kind of marketing Nike knows how to turn into headlines. Nike spent approximately $3.85 billion in demand creation, their internal term for advertising and marketing, in fiscal year 2022 alone. Allocating a meaningful portion of that towards a BTS partnership wouldn't require a financial miracle, it would require a strategic decision. And given what Nike knows about cultural leverage, about the compounding returns that come from betting on the right cultural moment at the right time, it's difficult to argue that BTS in 2027 is anything other than precisely that kind of moment. One more number worth considering. South Korea's sneaker resale market has grown dramatically over the past 5 years, driven in large part by the intersection of K-pop culture and streetwear. Nike already dominates that market. A BTS collaboration wouldn't just perform globally, it would perform exceptionally in one of Nike's fastest-growing regional markets, essentially giving the brand a 2-for-1 return on the same investment. Nike at number 7 isn't a consolation placement. It's a recognition that even the brand at the bottom of this list brings resources, cultural sophistication, and marketing infrastructure that most companies on Earth can't match. The real question is whether Nike's traditional focus on athletic identity gives way to something broader, because the brand sitting at number 6 operates in a completely different arena, and its reason for wanting BTS is unlike anything we've covered so far. Number 6.
Apple. There is exactly one company on Earth that can claim its product launch events are watched live by tens of millions of people as pure entertainment, not because of discounts or giveaways, but because the brand itself has become a cultural institution. That company is Apple, and the reasons it belongs on this list go deeper than most people initially assume. Then doubled that milestone in 2020 and crossed $3 trillion in 2022. As of recent reporting, Apple holds the title of the world's most valuable company by market cap. The iPhone alone commands roughly 50% of the US smartphone market and generates more revenue annually than many of the world's largest corporations produce in total. AirPods, launched in 2016, created an entirely new product category, and by 2021 were generating an estimated $12 billion in annual revenue, making them, if separated from Apple, one of the most profitable consumer electronics businesses on Earth. But here's what separates Apple from every other technology company on this list. Apple doesn't just sell devices, it sells an aesthetic worldview. And that is precisely where BTS enters the picture. Apple has always understood that its products mean more to its customers than their technical specifications. The Mac wasn't just a computer, it was a symbol of creative independence. The iPod wasn't just an MP3 player, it was the way an entire generation redefined their relationship with music. The iPhone didn't just replace the mobile phone, it restructured how human beings navigate daily life. Every major Apple product launch has been accompanied by marketing that frames technology not as machinery, but as a form of self-expression. That philosophy has driven some of the most celebrated advertising campaigns in modern history. Consider the original iPod silhouette campaigns from 2003, simple black outlines of people dancing against vivid color backgrounds, each image anchored by white earbuds. No product specifications, no price points, just the feeling of music and movement. Those ads became cultural shorthand for an entire era. Apple didn't follow music culture, it shaped it. And now, in 2027, with BTS returning to full global activity, Apple has before it perhaps its most compelling opportunity to do exactly that again. BTS's relationship with music streaming is foundational to understanding why Apple would want them specifically. Apple Music launched in 2015 and has grown to an estimated 88 million subscribers globally as of recent years, placing it firmly behind Spotify in the streaming wars. That gap matters to Apple, not because Apple Music is struggling financially, but because streaming subscribers represent long-term ecosystem lock-in. Every person who uses Apple Music is more likely to stay within the Apple ecosystem, buying iPhones, AirPods, and subscribing to additional Apple services. BTS's fanbase, ARMY, is one of the most active streaming communities on the planet. When BTS releases music, ARMY organizes mass streaming campaigns with military precision, coordinating across time zones to maximize play counts on specific platforms. Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Music all see measurable traffic spikes correlated with BTS activity. For Apple, aligning with BTS isn't just advertising, it's user acquisition at scale. The AirPods angle is equally compelling. AirPods have become one of the defining fashion accessories of the current decade, not just audio equipment, but a visible status marker worn in ears, photographed constantly, and replicated aggressively by competitors. BTS members are among the most photographed people in the world. The parasocial intimacy of K-pop fan culture means that what BTS members wear, use, and are seen with carries immediate commercial weight. A campaign featuring BTS wearing AirPods, shot in Apple's signature clean, high-contrast visual style, would circulate through ARMY fan networks organically, reaching audiences that paid advertising simply cannot access efficiently. Then there's the iPhone. Apple's global iPhone campaigns have historically featured artists to demonstrate the camera's music video and creative capabilities. The Shot on iPhone campaign, which has run in various forms for years, has featured content from filmmakers, musicians, and visual artists worldwide. The logic of BTS shot on iPhone essentially writes itself. BTS's visual production quality, their music videos routinely hit 100 million YouTube views within days of release, is among the highest in the global music industry. Positioning iPhone as the creative tool behind that quality would resonate with aspiring creators worldwide, one of Apple's most valuable and expanding user segments. Apple has also been steadily building its entertainment infrastructure. Apple TV Plus launched in 2019 and has invested heavily in original content, winning major awards including the first streaming service Academy Award for Best Picture with Coda in 2022. A BTS documentary or a behind-the-scenes concert film produced exclusively for Apple TV Plus would generate the kind of subscriber-driving event content that streaming platforms spend enormous sums trying to create. For context, BTS's 2021 online concert BTS Permission to Dance on Stage drew an audience of over 400,000 paid viewers in a single day, even in a digital-only format. An Apple TV Plus exclusive BTS project would be a genuine tentpole moment for the platform. The geographic dimension matters here too. Apple's fastest-growing markets include India, Southeast Asia, and South Korea itself, all regions where BTS commands extraordinary cultural influence. Apple has been investing aggressively in retail and market penetration across Asia. A BTS-led campaign would function simultaneously as a brand statement in established Western markets and a market-opening tool in regions where Apple is still competing for dominance. That dual utility, one campaign, multiple strategic functions, is the kind of efficiency that justifies major marketing investment. One more dimension worth considering. Apple's relationship with music has always been personal. Steve Jobs called the iPod 1,000 songs in your pocket. Music was never a peripheral feature for Apple. It was central to the brand's identity from the beginning. BTS, whose music across albums like Map of the Soul, Persona, and BE has addressed themes of youth, identity, and the search for meaning, occupies a creative space that aligns with Apple's historical positioning of music as something more than entertainment. A collaboration between the two wouldn't feel like a technology company renting cultural credibility. It would feel like a natural convergence. Apple's marketing budget runs into billions annually, and the company has never been reluctant to spend on campaigns it believes will move the needle. With BTS returning to full global visibility in 2027, the timing aligns with what could be the most culturally significant pop music moment of the decade. For Apple, missing that window wouldn't just be a missed opportunity, it would be a statement in itself. But as significant as Apple's ecosystem is, the brand coming in at number 5 has been doing something Apple has never consistently managed, making its product a physical presence in every country on Earth, in the hands of every income bracket, embedded in daily life for over a century. And it wants BTS for reasons that are as old as modern advertising itself.
Number 5. Coca-Cola. There is a product so deeply embedded in global culture that it has been consumed on every continent, in virtually every country, by people across every income level, religion, and political system for over 130 years. Coca-Cola isn't just a beverage company, it is one of the most studied, referenced, and imitated marketing organizations in the history of commerce. And its interest in BTS would not be accidental. It would be the logical conclusion of a strategy that has been in motion for decades. The Coca-Cola Company was founded in Atlanta, Georgia in 1886. A pharmacist named John Stiff Pemberton created the original formula, and his bookkeeper, Frank Robinson, came up with the name and the iconic cursive script that still appears on cans and bottles today. What began as a syrup sold at soda fountains became, within a century, the most recognized brand on the planet. As of recent years, Coca-Cola products are consumed approximately 2 billion times per day across more than 200 countries. That's not a marketing claim, it's a logistics reality backed by one of the most extensive distribution networks in global commerce. But Coca-Cola's most underappreciated competitive advantage has never been distribution or formula. It's been music.
The relationship between Coca-Cola and popular music is longer, deeper, and more deliberately constructed than most people realize. In 1971, Coca-Cola released what became one of the most celebrated advertisements in television history, "I'd Like to Buy the World a Coke," featuring a multicultural group of young people on a hillside in Italy singing together. It wasn't just an ad, it generated so much public demand that the jingle was re-recorded as a standalone pop song, "I'd Like to Teach the World to Sing," which charted internationally. That was the moment Coca-Cola understood something fundamental. The right musical moment doesn't just sell drinks, it creates cultural memory. That lesson has guided Coca-Cola's marketing philosophy ever since. The company has collaborated with artists across virtually every genre and generation. Michael Jackson signed with Coca-Cola in the 1980s. The brand has partnered with artists including Selena Gomez, Avicii, Maroon 5, and countless regional stars tailored to specific markets. Coca-Cola's FIFA World Cup campaigns have consistently used music as their primary vehicle. The 2010 World Cup song, "Wavin' Flag" by K'naan, produced in partnership with Coca-Cola, became a genuine global anthem, charting in dozens of countries simultaneously. That is the model Coca-Cola has refined for over 50 years. Find the artist whose cultural moment intersects with a global event, invest fully, and let the music carry the brand. BTS is the most logical candidate for that model that has existed in years. Consider the geographic scope first. Coca-Cola needs its campaigns to function simultaneously across markets that often have little cultural overlap: North America, Europe, Latin America, the Middle East, and Asia. Finding a single musical act that resonates authentically across all of those markets in the same moment is extraordinarily difficult. Most campaigns require regional adaptation, local artists, and localized messaging, all of which add cost and complexity while diluting brand coherence. BTS eliminates that problem almost entirely. Their fan base is genuinely global in a way that is statistically unusual. ARMY fan communities operate in over 100 countries, with significant organized presences in the United States, Brazil, the Philippines, India, Indonesia, Mexico, and across Europe and the Middle East. A Coca-Cola campaign built around BTS would not need translation. It would land in all of those markets with the same cultural force. The commercial track record is impossible to dismiss. When Coca-Cola partnered with BTS for its #ShareACoke campaign and bottle releases in South Korea in 2019, the response was immediate and measurable. Specially packaged BTS Coca-Cola bottles became collector's items, with some reselling on secondary markets at multiples of their retail price. This is a pattern Coca-Cola knows well, from limited edition World Cup bottles and seasonal packaging. But the BTS editions generated that response without requiring a global sporting event as a backdrop. The fandom itself was sufficient to create urgency. The music integration angle is where a 2027 collaboration gets particularly interesting. Coca-Cola has a history of commissioning original music for campaigns, not licensing existing tracks, but building campaigns around songs created specifically for the partnership. The World Cup campaigns have demonstrated this at scale. If Coca-Cola were to commission a BTS track or a campaign song tied to a major global moment in 2027, whether a sporting event, a product launch, or simply BTS's own return to global touring, the resulting content would function simultaneously as advertising and as music product. ARMY would stream it, radio stations in multiple countries would play it. The song would carry Coca-Cola's association wherever it traveled, which with BTS means virtually everywhere. There's a demographic logic here that goes beyond music. Coca-Cola, like most legacy beverage brands, faces a generational challenge. Younger consumers are increasingly moving toward water, energy drinks, and health-conscious alternatives. The company has been actively repositioning parts of its portfolio and diversifying into new beverage categories, but the core Coca-Cola brand still depends on maintaining cultural relevance with younger audiences. BTS's fan base, heavily concentrated in the 16 to 30 age range, represents exactly the consumer segment Coca-Cola needs to stay connected with. A partnership with BTS isn't just a campaign for Coca-Cola, it's a relevancy strategy. Consider the World Cup model once more, because it's instructive for what 2027 could look like. The 2026 FIFA World Cup takes place across the United States, Canada, and Mexico. Coca-Cola is among the longest-tenured FIFA sponsors, a relationship that has produced some of the brand's most memorable global campaigns. If Coca-Cola chose to anchor its 2026 World Cup campaign or its follow-on marketing into 2027 around a BTS collaboration, the timing would be almost perfectly calibrated. BTS members completing military service through 2025 and into 2026, with full group activity anticipated by 2027, aligns with the post-World Cup marketing window, when brands typically sustain momentum into the following year. The production scale Coca-Cola brings to a campaign of this nature is also worth noting. Coca-Cola doesn't run national campaigns. It runs synchronized global rollouts across television, digital platforms, out-of-home advertising, in-store displays, and product packaging simultaneously. A BTS collaboration wouldn't appear in one market. It would appear everywhere at once, creating the kind of omnipresent cultural moment that Coca-Cola has historically executed better than almost any company in existence. One number that puts the potential in perspective: Coca-Cola spent approximately $4 billion on advertising globally in 2022. Directing a meaningful fraction of that toward a BTS campaign would represent an investment that is large by any standard, but well within the range of what Coca-Cola has historically committed to partnerships it believes will generate global brand impact. Coca-Cola knows how to make music feel universal. BTS knows how to make a global audience feel personally seen. The overlap between those two capabilities, if channeled correctly, could produce the kind of campaign that people remember not as advertising, but as a moment. And yet, the brand sitting at number 4 isn't competing on feelings, it's competing on infrastructure. A digital and commercial infrastructure so vast that a BTS collaboration wouldn't just be a campaign, it would be an entirely new content ecosystem.
Number 4, Amazon. Most companies sell you a product. Amazon sells you a relationship and then builds an entire ecosystem around making that relationship as difficult as possible to walk away from. That strategy has made Jeff Bezos' creation into something that defies simple categorization. Amazon is simultaneously the world's largest e-commerce platform, a cloud computing giant, a streaming service, a hardware manufacturer, a logistics network, a pharmacy, and a grocery chain. Understanding why Amazon belongs on this list requires understanding that any collaboration with BTS wouldn't be a single deal. It would be a deployment across an empire. Amazon was incorporated in 1994 as an online bookstore operating out of a garage in Bellevue, Washington. Within 3 decades, it became one of the most valuable companies in human history, crossing a $1 trillion market capitalization in 2018. Amazon Web Services, the cloud computing division that Bezos built almost as a side project, now generates the majority of Amazon's operating profit and powers a significant portion of the global internet, including services used by Netflix, Airbnb, and countless other major platforms. Amazon Prime, the subscription service that began as a free 2-day shipping program in 2005, has grown into a bundle that includes video streaming, music streaming, reading, gaming, and more. As of recent reports, Amazon Prime has over 200 million subscribers worldwide. That subscriber base is Amazon's most strategically important asset, and it is exactly what connects Amazon to BTS. Here's the core logic.
Amazon Prime Video needs content that drives subscriptions, not content that subscribers watch after they've already joined, content that makes people sign up specifically to access it. These are called tentpole projects in the streaming industry, and they are extraordinarily valuable because they solve the hardest problem in subscription business: acquisition. Netflix understood this when it invested in original films and series. Disney Plus understood it when it launched with The Mandalorian. Apple TV Plus understood it when it committed to theatrical quality original productions. Amazon has made the same calculation repeatedly, spending approximately $1 billion on the rights to The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power alone, reportedly making it the most expensive television series ever produced. BTS represents a different kind of tentpole, one that doesn't require a fictional universe or an IP acquisition. The audience already exists, it is already organized, and it is already accustomed to seeking out and paying for exclusive BTS content. The precedent is established and measurable. BTS's documentary, Burn the Stage, originally released on YouTube Premium in 2018, drew enough viewership to warrant a theatrical version. Break the Silence, the movie, released in 2020, screened in cinemas across multiple countries. Their concert films and behind-the-scenes documentary series on Hybe's Weverse platform have generated consistent paid viewership. ARMY doesn't just stream BTS content passively, they seek it out actively, pay for platform access to obtain it, and re-watch it at rates that drive engagement metrics significantly above industry averages. For Amazon Prime Video, an exclusive BTS documentary series or concert film wouldn't be a gamble, it would be a calculated subscriber acquisition event with a built-in global audience. The concert dimension is particularly compelling. BTS's 2019 world tour, Love Yourself, Speak Yourself, sold out stadiums including Wembley Stadium in London, England, becoming the first Korean act to headline Wembley, as well as the Rose Bowl in Los Angeles and multiple stadium dates in the United States, Europe, and Asia. A concert film produced from a BTS world tour, distributed exclusively through Amazon Prime Video, would function both as entertainment and advertisement for the Prime subscription. The marketing writes itself. To watch BTS live from the world's biggest stages in high-quality production from your living room, you need Prime. Amazon Music adds another layer. Amazon Music has tens of millions of users and competes directly with Spotify and Apple Music for streaming market share. BTS is among the most streamed musical acts globally. Their album Map of the Soul 7 debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200 and sold over 4 million copies in its first month of release in 2020. An Amazon Music exclusive, whether a live session, a behind-the-scenes audio series, or early access to new music, would drive meaningful platform engagement and potentially convert casual Amazon customers into more deeply embedded Prime subscribers. Then there's the e-commerce angle, which is where Amazon's scale becomes almost unfair. Amazon's marketplace processed over 9 billion items shipped through Prime in the United States in 2021 alone. BTS merchandise, albums, photo cards, light sticks, apparel, and concert goods represent a significant global retail category. Hybe, BTS's parent company, generated substantial merchandise revenue even during the years when large-scale touring was impossible due to the pandemic, demonstrating that ARMY's purchasing behavior is consistent regardless of external conditions. An Amazon BTS exclusive merchandise partnership, limited drops, early access for Prime members, exclusive bundles, would generate the kind of transactional volume that Amazon's logistics infrastructure is uniquely positioned to handle at global scale. Amazon's Twitch platform, which the company acquired in 2014 for $970 million, adds another dimension. Twitch has historically been associated with gaming content, but has increasingly expanded into music, entertainment, and live event streaming.
A BTS live event streamed exclusively on Twitch would shatter the platform's concurrent viewership records. For context, the most watched non-gaming event in Twitch history drew millions of concurrent viewers, and BTS's online concert, BTS Permission to Dance on Stage in 2021, drew a paid audience of over 400,000 in a single session, with free simulcast viewership significantly higher. Moving that event to an Amazon-owned platform would be a statement about Twitch's entertainment ambitions. The Amazon Alexa and smart device ecosystem rounds out the picture. Amazon has sold hundreds of millions of Echo devices globally, creating a network of in-home voice interfaces. BTS Alexa skills, interactive fan experiences, music integrations, and exclusive voice content would be a low-cost, high-engagement addition to any partnership package. It's the kind of feature that sounds minor in isolation, but when deployed across hundreds of millions of devices, generates meaningful brand touchpoints daily. What makes Amazon genuinely distinctive on this list is the combination of reach and infrastructure. Nike has brand power, Apple has ecosystem loyalty, Coca-Cola has global distribution. Amazon has all three of those things in their digital equivalents, plus the logistics to deliver physical products to almost any address on Earth within 48 hours. A BTS collaboration with Amazon wouldn't occupy one corner of the business. It would activate multiple divisions simultaneously, each reinforcing the others, creating a commercial presence that multiplies its own impact. Amazon spent over $16 billion on content for Prime Video in 2022, according to estimates from analysts. Finding a BTS-related project worthy of a fraction of that budget isn't the challenge. The challenge is determining which of the many available formats would generate the highest return. And given Amazon's analytical sophistication, the answer to that question is probably already sitting in a spreadsheet somewhere in Seattle. But if Amazon's appeal is rooted in infrastructure and scale, the brand coming in at number 3 is playing a completely different game, one where a single deal doesn't just generate revenue, but potentially reshapes what BTS means to an entire generation of fans.
Number 3, Disney. There is a reason the Walt Disney Company sits at number 3 on this list rather than lower, and it has nothing to do with marketing budgets or subscriber counts. It has to do with what Disney actually does to the careers of the people who enter its orbit. Disney doesn't just partner with cultural figures. It absorbs them into a universe that has its own gravitational pull, its own merchandise ecosystem, its own theme park real estate, and its own century-long legacy of turning cultural moments into permanent mythology. That is a fundamentally different proposition from anything else on this list, and for BTS, it could mean something much larger than any individual campaign or contract. The Walt Disney Company was founded in 1923 by brothers Walt and Roy Disney in Los Angeles. What began as a small animation studio that nearly went bankrupt in its early years became, through a combination of creative vision, strategic acquisitions, and relentless brand discipline, the largest entertainment conglomerate in the world. Disney's acquisitions tell the story of its ambition in the clearest possible terms. Each acquisition didn't just add content to Disney's library. It added an entire universe of characters, stories, and fan relationships that Disney then systematically monetized across films, television, streaming, theme parks, and merchandise. Disney's theme park and consumer products division alone generated over $28 billion in revenue in fiscal year 2023. That number is important because it illustrates something that separates Disney from every other company on this list. Disney makes money from its cultural partnerships long after the initial campaign ends. When Disney absorbed the Avengers, it didn't just run Iron Man films, it built Iron Man rides, Iron Man merchandise lines, Iron Man character meet and greets, and Iron Man costumes that parents buy every Halloween. The question for BTS is whether Disney sees in them the same multi-decade monetization potential, and there is real evidence that the answer is already yes. BTS and Disney have an existing relationship that is not speculative. In December 2023, Disney Plus released BTS Monuments, Beyond the Star, an 8-episode documentary series chronicling the group's entire career from their 2013 debut through their decade-long journey to global prominence. The series was produced with full cooperation from Hybe and BTS, featuring unprecedented archival footage, personal interviews, and behind-the-scenes access that no previous BTS documentary had provided. Disney Plus acquiring and distributing that documentary was not a minor licensing decision. It was a strategic content investment reflecting Disney's belief that BTS's story has genuine long-form narrative value for its subscriber base. That existing relationship matters enormously in the context of 2027. When BTS returns to full group activity, Disney is not approaching them as a stranger. There is already an established working relationship between Hybe and Disney's content teams, an established audience that has already found BTS through Disney Plus, and an established precedent for the kind of intimate, high-production documentary content that both parties know how to make together. The infrastructure for a deeper collaboration is already partially built. Disney Plus itself is the centerpiece of Disney's streaming ambitions. The service launched in November 2019 and reached 100 million subscribers faster than any streaming platform in history, hitting that milestone in approximately 16 months. As of recent reporting, Disney Plus has over 150 million subscribers globally, and Disney has been actively working to expand its content categories beyond traditional animation, superhero fare, and Star Wars content to attract and retain adult viewers in competitive streaming markets. A BTS concert special filmed at a major world tour date, produced to Disney's visual standards, and released exclusively on Disney Plus, would be exactly the kind of crossover content that brings ARMY subscribers onto the platform while exposing existing Disney Plus subscribers to BTS. The concert film category is one that Disney has executed with notable success. The 2023 theatrical release of Taylor Swift, The Eras Tour concert film, which Disney Plus acquired streaming rights for, demonstrated the commercial viability of artist-led concert experiences in the streaming era at massive scale. BTS's live performance catalog, spanning stadium tours across 4 continents, contains material of equivalent or greater scale. A BTS concert film produced and distributed under the Disney banner would not be an experiment. It would be a proven format applied to one of the world's most commercially powerful musical acts. The merchandise dimension is where Disney's competitive advantage becomes most apparent. Disney's consumer products operation is the largest licensor of branded merchandise in the world, generating billions annually from products bearing its characters and properties. A formal BTS Disney merchandise partnership, even one that didn't involve fictional character crossovers, but simply applied Disney's retail infrastructure and global licensing network to BTS-branded goods, would unlock distribution channels that Hybe's existing merchandise operation cannot replicate independently. Disney merchandise appears in its own retail stores, in major department stores, in theme parks, in airports, and through e-commerce channels across dozens of countries. That distribution footprint, applied to BTS products, would represent a significant expansion of where and how ARMY can purchase merchandise. The theme park dimension is longer term and more speculative, but not without precedent. Disney has integrated musical acts into its parks before, stage shows, character experiences, and themed areas tied to popular entertainment properties. A BTS-themed experience at one of Disney's Asian parks, Tokyo Disney Resort in Japan or Hong Kong Disneyland, both in BTS's core geographic market, would draw extraordinary attendance from ARMY fans across the region. Disney has demonstrated willingness to invest in experiences tied to high-demand entertainment properties when the audience size justifies the infrastructure cost. ARMY's organized travel behavior, fan groups coordinating trips to BTS concert locations from across the world, represents exactly the kind of motivated audience that would support a themed park experience. The narrative architecture that Disney brings to this equation is also worth examining. Disney has spent a century building the mythology of its properties, making stories feel timeless, giving characters emotional arcs that span decades, and creating experiences that people return to across generations. BTS's own narrative, 7 young men from non-elite backgrounds who faced years of industry skepticism, who built a global fan base through honest communication about mental health and self-acceptance, who then chose to serve their country's mandatory military requirement rather than seek exemption, is a story with genuine dramatic weight. Disney knows how to honor stories like that without reducing them to sentiment. The documentary model it used for BTS Monuments, Beyond the Star, is the beginning of that process, not the end. Disney at number 3 is here because what it offers BTS isn't just a campaign or a platform. It's a place inside one of the most durable entertainment universes ever constructed. The brands at number 2 and number 1 offer something different, not mythology, but reach. And the brand at number 2 has a specific, technology-driven form of reach that is unlike anything else on this list. Number 2, Meta. In 2021, Mark Zuckerberg did something that very few CEOs of established companies have ever done. He renamed his entire corporation after a product that didn't fully exist yet. Facebook, the social network that had spent 17 years becoming the most used communication platform in human history, became Meta Platforms Incorporated. That decision was simultaneously a business strategy, a public bet on the future of human digital interaction, and a statement about where Zuckerberg believed the internet was going. Understanding why Meta sits at number 2 on this list requires understanding what that bet actually means and why BTS fits into it at a level that goes far beyond a sponsored post. Meta's current scale is worth establishing clearly before anything else. As of recent reporting, Meta's family of apps, Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, and Threads, collectively serve approximately 3.3 billion daily active users. That number represents roughly 40% of the entire human population on Earth, using at least one Meta platform every single day. No other company in history has had simultaneous daily access to that proportion of humanity. Facebook alone, despite years of narrative about its declining relevance among younger users, remains the most used social media platform on Earth by total user count. The relevance to BTS begins with Instagram, specifically with what BTS's presence on that platform looks like in quantitative terms. BTS's official Instagram account has over 70 million followers, making it one of the most followed accounts on the platform. Individual member accounts, opened in December 2021 when Hybe lifted a long-standing group policy restricting solo social media activity, accumulated millions of followers within hours of their creation. Jungkook's personal Instagram account reached 10 million followers in under an hour, setting a then record for the fastest account to reach that milestone on the platform. The engagement rates generated by BTS content consistently exceed industry benchmarks for accounts of comparable size because ARMY's interaction with BTS content is active rather than passive. Comments, shares, saves, and story interactions all run at levels that Meta's own algorithm rewards with expanded organic reach. For Meta, that engagement pattern is commercially significant in a specific way. Social media advertising revenue is not simply a function of audience size, it is a function of engagement quality. Advertisers pay premium rates to reach audiences that are actively participating rather than passively scrolling. ARMY's demonstrated engagement behavior means that BTS content functions as a high-quality advertising environment, which is precisely why Meta would value a formalized partnership that keeps BTS content centralized on its platforms rather than migrating to competitors. The competitive threat is real. TikTok has been the primary disruptor of Meta's dominance among younger users since approximately 2019. ByteDance's short video platform has drawn significant time and attention away from Instagram, Reels, and Facebook, particularly in the demographic that ARMY occupies most heavily. Meta has invested enormous resources into Reels, Instagram's short-form video feature, as its primary response to TikTok's growth, and has been reasonably successful in slowing the shift. A formal BTS partnership anchored to Reels content would be a direct competitive response, demonstrating that the platform where BTS shows up first, most often, and most creatively is Instagram, not TikTok. That positioning has measurable value in the ongoing platform war for Gen Z attention. Then there is the artificial intelligence dimension, which is where Meta's interest in BTS takes on a different and more forward-looking character. Meta has made AI one of its core strategic priorities, investing billions into the development of its Llama large language models and Meta AI Assistant. In 2024, Meta AI was integrated across all of Meta's major applications, making it one of the most widely distributed AI assistants in the world by virtue of the platforms it inhabits. Meta's stated goal is to make its AI not just a functional tool, but a culturally embedded one, a presence that feels natural within the social contexts people already occupy online. BTS creates one of the most active AI training and deployment contexts imaginable. ARMY communities generate enormous volumes of text, image, and video content daily. Fan translation communities have produced multilingual BTS content in dozens of languages for years, representing exactly the kind of multilingual, culturally specific dataset that AI systems benefit from. A BTS partnership that incorporates Meta AI features, AI-generated fan interaction tools, multilingual content assistance, personalized music discovery through AI, would position Meta's AI as culturally relevant to one of the internet's most active communities. That is a form of AI adoption that no press release or product launch can replicate. The virtual and augmented reality angle rounds out Meta's case in a way that is genuinely distinct from every other brand on this list. Meta has invested over $40 billion into its Reality Labs division, the segment responsible for developing VR headsets, AR glasses, and the foundational technologies of what Zuckerberg has called the metaverse. The commercial returns on that investment have been slower than originally projected, with Reality Labs reporting significant operating losses in recent years. But the underlying technology has continued to advance, and the Meta Quest line of VR headsets has maintained a market leadership position in consumer virtual reality. BTS's concert experiences are inherently well-suited to virtual reality as a format. Stadium concerts are, by definition, exclusive experiences, limited by venue capacity and geography. The overwhelming majority of ARMY cannot attend a BTS concert in person regardless of their willingness to do so. Virtual reality offers a solution to that constraint that is qualitatively different from a standard live stream. A BTS concert filmed in volumetric 3D for Meta Quest, placing the viewer on a virtual floor of a stadium, with the ability to look in any direction and experience the production from inside it, would be a demonstration of what VR can offer that no purely technical product launch has managed to convey as compellingly. Meta has been searching for a consumer VR moment that makes the technology feel necessary rather than novelty. A BTS VR concert experience could be that moment. There is also the Threads dimension. Meta's Threads platform, launched in July 2023 as a direct competitor to X, formerly Twitter, reached 100 million users in its first 5 days, the fastest app to reach that milestone in history. It did so in part by leveraging Instagram's existing social graph, but it still needs compelling reasons for users to make it their primary real-time conversation platform. BTS and ARMY have historically been among the most active communities on X, driving trending topics globally on a regular basis. If BTS were to establish Threads as their primary real-time fan communication platform, the migration of ARMY conversation from X to Threads could be substantial, a platform shift driven not by features, but by fandom loyalty. Meta's reach is, by any honest measurement, unprecedented in human communication history. 3.3 billion daily users is not a marketing number, it is a statement about the structure of human digital life. And a BTS collaboration that activates that reach across Instagram, Reels, WhatsApp, Meta AI, and virtual reality simultaneously would be the kind of multi-platform event that the internet has genuinely not seen before. But even Meta's 3.3 billion daily users is not the final number on this list. The brand at number 1 doesn't just reach people, it is the infrastructure through which most of the internet's information moves, the platform through which BTS's music has been discovered by hundreds of millions of people, And the company whose interest in this collaboration is driven by an ecosystem so vast that a partnership wouldn't be measured in campaigns. It would be measured in what it means for the future of how people find, consume, and interact with everything. Number 1. Google. Every brand on this list wants BTS. Nike wants their cultural gravity. Apple wants their creative identity. Coca-Cola wants their global reach. Amazon wants their audience. Disney wants their story. Meta wants their engagement. But Google already has BTS embedded in the fabric of its most valuable asset, has been tracking every search, every view, and every algorithmic signal that BTS has generated for over a decade, and understands exactly what that data means in dollar terms better than any other company on Earth. That is what makes Google number 1. Not just ambition. Evidence. Alphabet Incorporated, Google's parent company, was incorporated in 2015 as a restructuring of Google LLC, which itself was founded in 1998 by Larry Page and Sergey Brin as a Stanford University research project. The original insight that the importance of a web page could be measured by the number of other pages linking to it, the same way academic papers gain authority through citations, became the foundation of a search engine that now processes approximately 8.5 billion searches per day. Google's search market share globally sits at approximately 92%, meaning that for the overwhelming majority of the world's internet users, searching the internet and using Google are functionally the same activity. That monopoly on human curiosity on the precise moment when a person doesn't know something and needs to find out is the most commercially valuable position any company has ever held in the information age. But Google's story stopped being just about search a long time ago. Alphabet's portfolio now includes Google Search, Google Maps, Gmail, Google Drive, Google Photos, Google Chrome, the Android operating system, Google Cloud, DeepMind, Waymo, and the asset that is most directly relevant to BTS, YouTube. Google acquired YouTube in October 2006 for $1.65 billion in stock, a deal that was widely criticized at the time as expensive and risky, given that YouTube was then a 20-month-old startup with no clear revenue model and significant copyright liability. That acquisition is now routinely cited as one of the most successful business decisions in corporate history. YouTube is the second most visited website on Earth after Google Search itself. It has over 2.7 billion logged in monthly users. It is the world's second largest search engine by query volume. In the United States, YouTube reaches more adults aged 18 to 49 than any cable television network. And it is the platform on which BTS built a significant portion of their global audience. The BTS-YouTube relationship is not casual, it is structural. BTS's music video for DNA, released in 2017, was at the time the fastest K-pop video to reach 10 million views on YouTube. Their 2020 single, Dynamite, became the first video in YouTube history to surpass 100 million views within 24 hours of its release, a record at that point. The group's official YouTube channel has amassed billions of cumulative views across their catalog. ARMY uses YouTube not just for passive consumption, but for active engagement, streaming campaigns, synchronized viewing events, and fan-organized content creation that generates additional YouTube traffic beyond BTS's official releases. YouTube's algorithm has also been a primary vehicle through which new fans discover BTS, creating a feedback loop where BTS's popularity drives algorithmic recommendations that expose more people to BTS, generating more popularity. For YouTube specifically, BTS represents one of the clearest documented cases of a single artist ecosystem driving measurable platform behavior. YouTube has a vested interest in keeping that ecosystem healthy and growing, which means keeping BTS content on YouTube rather than allowing it to migrate to competitor platforms. A formal partnership between Google and BTS could take the form of YouTube Premium exclusive content, YouTube Originals productions, or priority placement and promotional support that deepens BTS's presence on the platform in ways that benefit both parties. Google's artificial intelligence division is where the scale of potential investment becomes genuinely remarkable. DeepMind, The AI research laboratory Google acquired in 2014 for approximately $500 million has produced some of the most significant advances in artificial intelligence in history, including AlphaGo, the system that defeated the world's best Go player in 2016, and AlphaFold, which solved the protein folding problem that had challenged biology for 50 years. Google's Gemini models represent the company's current frontier AI development, and Google has been aggressively integrating AI across its entire product ecosystem, into Search, into Google Photos, into Google Workspace, and into Android. The intersection of Google's AI capabilities and BTS is not as abstract as it might initially sound. Google has used cultural partnerships to demonstrate its technology in consumer-facing ways for years. A Google AI campaign featuring BTS demonstrating how Gemini assists with music creation, language translation across BTS's multilingual fanbase, real-time video search through YouTube, or AI-enhanced camera technology on Pixel phones would accomplish something that purely technical demonstrations cannot. It would give AI a face, a feeling, and a cultural context that resonates with a massive global audience. For a company that is currently in an intense competition with OpenAI, Microsoft, and Meta for AI mindshare and adoption, a BTS-anchored campaign would not be frivolous spending. It would be a strategic communication investment. The Android and Pixel phone angle mirrors Apple's iPhone opportunity, but with a different geographic emphasis. Android holds approximately 72% of the global smartphone market by operating system, meaning that in most of the countries where BTS has its largest fan bases outside the United States, including South Korea, Indonesia, the Philippines, Brazil, and India, Android is the dominant mobile platform. A BTS partnership with Google's Pixel hardware or Android ecosystem would land in markets where the competitive dynamics are entirely different from Apple's stronghold, reinforcing Google's brand in precisely the geographies where BTS's influence is most concentrated. Google's advertising infrastructure is the final and perhaps most critical piece. Google Ads, encompassing search advertising, YouTube advertising, and the Google Display Network, generated over $237 billion in revenue in 2023, according to Alphabet's financial reporting. Google doesn't just spend on advertising. Google is the mechanism through which most of the world's digital advertising flows. A BTS partnership that included exclusive advertising formats, BTS curated YouTube masthead placements, BTS integrated Google search experiences, or special ad products tied to BTS content releases, would allow Google to demonstrate to its advertising clients the commercial power of BTS-adjacent audiences. That demonstration has direct revenue implications because it makes those ad products more valuable to the brands that purchase them. A BTS partnership valued at several $billion, encompassing YouTube content rights, AI campaign integration, Pixel hardware co-promotion, and advertising ecosystem development, would represent a fraction of Alphabet's annual financial activity while potentially generating returns across multiple divisions simultaneously. It is the only company on this list for which the word billions in a partnership context is not hyperbole but arithmetic. Here is what ties it together. Google knows more about BTS's commercial value than BTS's own management does. Every search query, every YouTube view, every autocomplete suggestion, every trending topic generated by ARMY activity over the past decade has passed through Google's systems and been indexed, analyzed, and understood in ways that no other company can replicate. When Google looks at BTS, it is looking at a dataset it has been curating for 10 years. The decision to invest at scale isn't a creative leap. It's a calculated conclusion that the infrastructure, the audience, and the moment all converge in 2027 in a way that justifies the spend. Google at number 1 is not a surprise if you follow the logic. It is the only company on this list that doesn't need to imagine what BTS is worth. It already knows. So here's where we land. By 2027, BTS will have done something almost no group in modern music history has managed at this scale, stepped away from the peak of global fame, fulfilled a national obligation that their country asked of all 7 of them, and returned. Not as a nostalgia act, not as a legacy brand coasting on past success, but as active artists at the height of their commercial power, backed by a decade of data proving exactly what their presence does to markets, platforms, and consumer behavior. Nike sees a cultural movement wearing sneakers. Apple sees a creative identity that sells ecosystems. Coca-Cola sees the rare artist whose reach is genuinely borderless. Amazon sees a content event that moves subscribers. Disney sees a story worth preserving for generations. Meta sees 3.3 billion daily users waiting for a reason to engage at a deeper level. And Google sees something more specific than all of them: 10 years of search queries, view counts, and algorithmic signals that have already calculated the answer. One important thing worth being clear about: everything covered in this video is analytical, a projection of commercial logic based on publicly available information about these companies and BTS. None of the 7 brands discussed here have confirmed active negotiations with BTS or Hybe for 2027 partnerships. This is a content framework built on real business facts, not inside information. What is real is the trajectory. What is real is the data. What is real is that 2027 represents a convergence of timing, audience size, and cultural momentum that brands of this caliber do not overlook and do not miss twice. Which brings us to the only question that actually matters now. If only one of these 7 companies could land an exclusive global partnership with BTS in 2027, just one, which one deserves it most? Drop your answer in the comments. And if this video made you think about the business of music differently than you did before you clicked, that's exactly what it was built to do.